Hello folks, Tyler here with SuperATV along with Mickey Roberts. We're in one of SuperATV's R&D rooms today and we're going to talk about SuperATV's Rev1 Clutch kits. So for those of you that don't really know much about clutch kits, these Polaris RZRs or any UTV in the market, they come with a kind of a general purpose clutch setup. So anybody on the west coast that likes riding in the sand, somebody on the east coast that likes riding in the hills and trails, these are made to accommodate everybody's riding style. But if you're like me or a lot of people that like to fine-tune their machines for the riding area, you're going to want to set your clutch up for the riding style you do the most so you get the optimal power out of your machine. So with that said, we spend countless hours in this room on the dyno really figuring out the right combinations of clutch weights and spring rates and things for your clutches to optimize that power range on your machine. So what a clutch kit does, it's going to help you optimize your belt slippage, it's going to keep your belt life a lot longer, keep all these components cooler because everything's working happily. For the guys that love mud riding, the bigger tires, these clutches really struggle from the factory trying to run anything like over a 30-inch tire. So with a clutch kit, you're going to get a lot better engagement and just pull a lot harder, and it's going to make the life of your machine, your clutches, and your belt a lot longer. You got anything else that a clutch kit really might help with?
Also, it's going to increase sometimes a lot of times the speed. It's going to keep your horsepower a lot more consistent through the RPM ranges. It's just a whole lot better kit than what stock provides for what conditions you want to ride in.
So those of you, like I said, that might not know much about clutches, this is a primary and this is a secondary clutch. I know we get a lot of calls and questions, which one's the primary, which one's the secondary. So here behind us we have a brand new 2017 Polaris RZR XP Turbo. We'll step over here and show you where the clutch is located. So ultimately this is going to have a cover over it, along with a hose that runs through it to give air to your clutches. So like I said, here's your primary, here's your secondary. To get these off, you're going to be removing these two bolts. Then we're going to step back over here on the table to show you the tools you're going to need once you have those bolts removed to get that off the engine crank and the transmission shaft. So Mickey's going to talk to you a little bit about what it takes to get these off your machine, to put in a clutch kit, or even to do some general maintenance.
To start out with, we're going to use the primary clutch tool. It'll ask you to remove the bolt from the machine. You're going to screw this down in here. It's going to be pretty tough to get loose. You're going to have to put a lot of force on it, and it's really going to pop off there once you get this cranked down. It's going to take a lot of force. So don't be afraid to put a little bit of effort into it, and that tool will do that. On the secondary here, if it doesn't slide right off after you get it loose, we have a secondary puller that you can order and use it, and it'll also help you get off. We find that some of the older machines that never had the clutches take off, you'll need to use these.
But Mickey has said previously he does a ton of our clutch work and done a lot of different machines, and he says a lot of the time he's able to pull that bolt and that pulls right off of the shaft. So this is just, we have it if you need it.
Yes.
So back to that, that's basically, so that's how you get the clutches off the machine. So once you have them sitting here on your table, your workbench, you, I assume, probably have already called SuperATV and got your clutch kit. So this is kind of what you're going to be getting in the kit. This is one of our more so premium kits. It really depends on the model you go with, of what you're going to get. Sometimes you get some different primary or secondary springs. Sometimes you get a helix. Sometimes you get the clutch arms. It kind of depends on the kits. All machines are a little bit different, so we wanted to show you one that has pretty much everything in it, so you kind of get a little idea of what you might be getting into. But so basically, this is going to be a nice kit. All this comes in this particular package. This particular kit is for the hill climbing kit. So you have a new helix and your secondary spring and your primary spring, and like I said, all your clutch arms in different weights. The beauty of SuperATV and us having this dyno, we've spent countless hours trying to critique all these kits. So you can basically, call us up and say what type of riding you're going to be doing. whether it is mud or you like track racing, whatever, we're gonna send you these pre-weighted. So basically it's kind of a no-brainer. That's where these clutch kits get tricky, is when a guy just orders a random clutch kit from someone else and they don't really give you much of direction. So you're in the garage scratching your head, well, where do I put these weights? What do I do with this? With our kits, you call us, tell us the size tires you're running, what kind of machine you have, the type of riding you do, and what you'd like to see out of it. And we pretty much guarantee that we're gonna have a kit that's gonna suit your riding style, and it's gonna be a pretty effortless install, but it does take a little bit of involvement using these other specialty tools to work on the clutch. We're gonna be producing some videos later in the week to actually show you how to do a clutch kit install and go a little bit more in depth. Today, we just kind of want to give you a rundown of all the stuff we have to offer to help make your machine perform better to the riding style you do. So, Mickey, if you want to go ahead and explain a little bit how some of these other tools are used and when they're going to come into play with what you're changing.
Basically, we're going to start here with this is the spring compression tool. We're going to use that on the primary and secondary. And you're going to be needing that to install your primary and secondary springs. You're going to need it to use it to change your arms on your machine. Basically, you put it down on there. It comes with all these parts. You put this on top.
Slide it down, just
over top like this. On top of the primary, you'll start your nut.
Hey, maybe go ahead and put it.
Then put the handle on, you screw it all down, it compresses everything down, and you'll be able to get into all this stuff here. You'll be able to change out your arms. You'll be able to take the bolts loose on the top to be able to get the spring out, so you put the new spring in, you'll be able to put it all back together using this compressor. Same way at the secondary, you'll need to hold this center section down with it to change the string on it if your kit comes with a secondary spring. There's a lot of pressure on this one. It's a lot more than this one, so you got to be very careful when you remove these 3 bolts that you have that compressed.
And another thing to note, this is clutches out of a 2016 RZR Turbo, so don't expect when you pull it off an XP 1000, this setup's totally different. So like I said, we just wanted to have a primary and a secondary sitting up here on the bench so we can kind of relate with you. So don't be alarmed if your XP 1000 looks different than this, because pretty much all the clutches across the board have a little bit of difference. But we, like I said, we have great colored, detailed instructions, and we have tons of customer service on staff all the time, willing to help. Just give us a call if you have any questions, and we'll be willing to help. And you got any more tools you'd like to talk on?
These 3 tools lined up here. This is our clutch holding tool. And you're going to do some serious maintenance work on your machine, you'll need to use this. It actually takes the place of where the primary is actually on the crank now on the machine. It holds it down if you want to remove this nut, or if you want to do some maintenance on replacing bushings, rollers, anything that needs maintenance work. You'll be using these tools here. This is the turbo spider nut. It fits on here. You can take the nut loose. You'll be able to service this whole area. So it's very important tools to have if you're going to do your own maintenance work.
Another question for you. Looks like Jody's asked us, what makes the clutch get hot?
Well, belt slippage is a big issue. And what we try to do is maintain a lower belt temperature with less belt slippage. So we're engaging faster. We're trying to hold the RPMs in the RPM range. The biggest problem is that use your gearing like you're supposed to. That'll cause a lot of issues. If you're running below 30 miles an hour, a lot of times use low gear. That will ruin a belt faster than anything if you're running around high all the time and not going very fast. These weights are set up to engage quick, to hold the RPMs in the horsepower range. We got the different steps, different areas here. The first one's normally set up for your engagement. The middle is kind of the middle shift, trying to keep the RPMs in the horsepower range, and the tip does all the end right before it shifts out into overdrive. So we take a lot of time and look at these and adjust these countless times to try to optimize your machine.
And like Mickey stated, it's very important on these CVT machines, so like he said, to always be in the proper gear. We see that more times than none. A lot of new people get into the sport and don't really know how it works, but the biggest thing with no matter what kind of clutch, even as factory, is knowing when to be in low and when to be in high. Basically, if you're ever going to be doing any crawling around, going slow on the trail, crawling over logs, rocks, in soft sand, anything, being low range, that belt's going to be a lot more engaged in biting on the clutches and keeping it from slipping and getting hot, and that's what really causes belt wear. High range is when you just know you're going to stay in the gas and staying after it. So that is probably one of the most crucial things to belt life, is knowing when to be in there, and then also having a clutch kit, because that's going to optimize on your performance. So I think that's pretty much hits all the stuff we have, all the tools and things on the bench here. Enough of us talking. Let's do something cool. We're going to get this turbo fired up on the dyno and see what kind of numbers we can get. Basically, we're going to do a little bit for you guys watching live. Be sure to comment below what kind of horsepower you think we're going to get to the rear wheels on this factory turbo. 2017 model, has absolutely zero anything done to it. We haven't touched it. Later in the week, we're going to install one of our clutch kits and also put one of our Rev1 ECU tunes on it and see what kind of horsepower we can get out of that. So we got Mickey, he's going to get in here and fired up and see what kind of numbers we can get. All right, so here's our graph. So we want to tell how much horsepower. So we gave you that little glimpse. We'll post the results here later on. You guys post your comments of what kind of horsepower you think to get to win a free SuperATV t-shirt. We will post this evening at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the horsepower number we got on this new 2017 Polaris RZR XP Turbo. Feel free to comment in the links below any other questions you guys might have about clutches that we could hone in on later in the week. This week we're going to be talking about clutch kits and the Rev1 ECU tunes. So don't hesitate to ask any questions, and we'll be sure to address those later in the week. So stay tuned. Friday we're going to get back on live after we had a clutch kit installed. We're going to show you how easy it is to use our new handheld ECU tuner to add some serious horsepower. We're going to show you how easy that is and do another run and see what kind of numbers we can get out of this machine. Thanks for watching. We'll see you Friday.